Welcome to the Small Group Leaders video training series for 2024.
Hello everyone, welcome to this session. We'll be speaking about raising leaders. For me, it's very important that we consider a statement that we've heard many times. If you stop growing today, you stop leading well tomorrow. And when we speak about raising leaders, I want to start off this session by encouraging all of us to, as a leader, first think about our own growth before we think about the growth of the people in our small groups. Every one of us will be growing because we're going to church, we are in a small group, we are in a community, we are spending time with the Lord, so we are growing. The challenge for a small group leader is to help everyone in their small groups to grow intentionally. If I want to make my pot plants grow nicer, I have to trim them from time to time, prune them from time to time, move them in or out of more or less sun. And the way I do that, I don't facilitate the growth. I only facilitate the opportunity for God to allow the growth. So our role is not to make people grow, but our role is to create a space where people can grow intentionally. How did Jesus grow? I want to take us to a scripture in Luke 2, well-known scripture, Luke 2 verse 51. Jesus advances in wisdom and in favor. So then he went down with them and he came to Nazareth, and he was subject to them. But his mother kept all the things in her heart. Just going to pause there for a moment. Jesus grew in Nazareth. So often you and I are confused, or we maybe think that we need to be in Rome or Ephesus, in the capital cities of the world, the places where things happen. But we can grow right where we are. And I want to emphasize that because sometimes as students we're in a great place of growth, but you might be a young mother looking after children at the moment, or in a different phase of your life, and you feel like you're not set up for a great opportunity of growth at where you are at the moment. The point is, Jesus grew in Nazareth. He grew where he was. The place where he were is where he could grow. How did he grow? Verse 52. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and favor with men. So Jesus grew in those four areas. So that should be a clue for us to think about our own growth. Firstly, he grew in stature. That literally means in his physical body he grew. So when we think about spiritual growth, we should not neglect thinking about the health of our own bodies. It's Dallas Willard that says that every spiritual discipline actually finds a workflow, expression through a natural body. So that's why our bodies are not worthy to be worshipped, but we should care for them. So let's think about growing in our physical bodies. What does that mean for us as leaders and for those in our cell groups? What do we need to master in that area of our lives? Secondly, he grew in wisdom. Wisdom means the applied knowledge. So there's different areas of knowledge that we need to apply and grow in. It can be the context of where we live in. It can be the culture that we live in. It can be a subject field. It can be the word. It's different areas of intellectual growth that we need to apply in our lives. So if we think about growth, what are the area in your wisdom that you need to master in this next season? Thirdly, he grew in favor with God, and fourthly, in favor with man. So if we speak about the favor of man, to me, that is really around his emotional intelligence. Jesus had the ability to connect with the tax collector, with the prostitute, with the king, with the woman, with the child, across different barriers. He could connect with people. He was emotionally intelligent. And the cues and the clues he gave us is around his character, being humble and being kind. So is there areas that you need to master in growing with the favor of people? And then lastly, he grew in favor with God. Do we know what our Father wants? And that's really the challenge for us as leaders, to grow in these four areas for ourselves and then help others to intentionally grow in those areas. So I once read a book around hospitality. It's kind of a strange topic that I'm bringing in raising leaders. It's a book by Danny Meyer, and it's called setting the table. And he taught a whole cultural model through a silly example around the hospitality example. If we think about growing as leaders and helping others to grow, I want to bring in a model that I read in a book some time ago, and it's kind of a weird concept that I want to bring in here, but you will see where we're going. It's a book by Danny Meyer, and it's called Setting the Table. The book is around hospitality, and he ran a multiple restaurant industry in the States. He taught all his staff to think about hospitality as a core value when he was raising leaders. And he then developed a leadership model out of it. But the story goes something around this. He asked the waiter to lay the table, and then he would put the salt shaker perfectly at the center of the table, where it should be. And then he would invite a guest who would come and move the salt shaker. And then the waiter had to go back and move it back perfectly in line. And that was a repetitive exercise that he did over and over and over. And the people was like, "What are you doing?" And then he said, "I want us to be intentional about the things that we want to do, and know that certain things are our responsibility. But then it's around the attitude with what we do that responsibility. So the waiter, it is your responsibility to make sure that the salt shaker is at the middle of the table, and the guests all move it around, but you have to bring it back in a great attitude." And the model that he developed from that is, if you think about 3 circles that needs to be present whenever we want to help other people grow. It's around constant, gentle pressure. And he said, if we have constant pressure and we don't have gentleness present in the way we are teaching other people, it will be a hostile environment, and will experience pressure, and it will not be safe for them. If we have constant gentleness, it will be a very soft space, and everyone will feel welcome, but there will be limited growth and limited movement in their area. And if we jump between pressure and gentleness, we will be confusing people because they don't know what to expect. So for me, that has been a tremendous helpful tool to think about raising other people, helping them to develop as leaders, to consider constant gentle pressure. How can I, in a consistent way, encourage them to grow in stature, in wisdom, in favor with God and favor with man, and do that in a gentle way, but giving them enough of a nudge so that they take the next step to grow and actually move a little bit forward. So when we think about raising leaders, let's think about our own growth. What are the areas that we need to master now in our own lives? And then how can we help other people with constant gentle pressure to shape them to grow intentionally and allow God to do a massive work of growth in their lives?